table. And the reality is the U.S. taxpayer, as you know, is subsidizing Goldman Sachs and other banks to play at the $100 table in Las Vegas. And and Goldman Sachs and others can do this willy-nilly on behalf of hedge fund clients and other speculators with the knowledge, the fact that taxpayer dollars will be there to support the multi-trillion-dollar losses when they incur them. Why is that still legal, sir?
It's still legal because there has not been meaningful regulatory reform of the financial system. The money was pushed out to these institutions to support them, to prevent a systemic collapse. But the other side of that, which is what you're talking about, the too big to fail, the safety net, the moral hazard, it's all there. And until there's meaningful regulatory reform, the circumstances you describe are pretty accurate.
And do you think that a country in which you and I could start a bank, because I'm starting to think about starting a bank, this seems like an awfully good deal. You and I could start a bank, Neil, where we go out and openly speculate on the future of the American real estate market. The more risk we can take, the more money we will make, and then you and I can go back to the Federal Reserve to cash in our losses for money. Is that correct?
There are certain circumstances where that can happen, and until there's reform, it's going to continue to happen.
What's the fix? I think more and more people, unfortunately, in this country understand exactly what this problem is, and I assure you more of them will, because once you understand this, it's impossible not to be utterly enraged and spend your evenings without sleep trying to figure out how it is that this theft was able to occur. What do you see as the fix?
Well, we have to address the too big to fail problem. We have to address the moral hazard issues.
How? How?
You know, some of the suggestions that are out there, increased capital requirements will at least pull back some of the amount of money that's available for risk. You know, having stronger systemic regulation is important. There's so many different ideas floating out there. It's hard to pick which one, but the point is we have to move forward.
Before we move forward, my concern about moving forward is as if I walked into a bank with a gun, robbed it, took all the money, and then everybody said, you have to move forward. And then people say, hang on, Dylan just walked in with a machine gun to the bank and took all the money. Well, I know he did that, but we need to make rules so that in the future he can't legally walk into a bank with a machine gun. What I would like is the money back. They stole this money, sir. They made this money profiting with taxpayer money. Why is it legal for gambling, open gambling on the future of assets with taxpayer money? Why is that legal?
Because there are no rules or regulations that prohibiting it. It's not a satisfying answer, but that's sort of the reality. That is the regulatory system that we had going into this crisis, and that's the regulatory system we have currently.
Give me the names of the people responsible for that regulatory system.
Oh, I mean, you have to go back. I mean, our system's been in place for years, going back to, you know, the repealing the wall between investment banks and commercial banks. I mean, that's certainly, you know, back in the late 90s, that certainly is part of what triggered all of this. The failure to regulate derivatives markets. You know, it's a long list.
Yeah. All right. Listen, Neil, thank you so much for the incredible work you are doing.
Thank you.
Thank you for giving us access to the information you're able to find. Thank you. Neil Barofsky, Tarp inspector. Again, those laws that created that free gambling environment that I was referring to were Gramm-Leach-Bliley and the Commodity Futures Modernization Act. The Treasury Secretary at the time, Larry Summers, currently sits in the White House. Tim Geithner was the one in the room at the New York Fed last fall giving out money without strings attached, along with Hank Paulson, former Goldman Sachs CEO. Tim Geithner's been in the room the entire time. In fact, after delivering the money, he was promoted to become the next Treasury Secretary of the United States. So think about the foreclosures, the job losses, the massive profits on Wall Street, and what you just heard from Neil Barofsky, and ask yourself, well, why we don't have a hearing as to why those three gentlemen were able to give away our money with no strings attached. Next up.